why, but my eyes are kind of swollen today. This has happened before and everyone was like super concerned for me, so I just wanted to point it out this time. I just got back from Portland and my allergies in Arizona are so bad, so I woke up very puffy today and it won't go down. But I am back, and a couple weeks ago I read from an article that had a bunch of stalker stories in it. They were insane and I didn't get through all of them, so we're gonna read more today. I think we're just gonna hop right in, because I think I'm gonna ramble a lot at the end of this. This first story says she was obsessed. A couple years back when I was in college, I was the victim of a long-term stalker. I'm a male, 20 at the time. It started out fairly innocuous. On Valentine's Day, I started to receive secret admirer type text messages from an unknown number. I assumed it was a friend of mine playing a joke, as I was in a room with a handful of tech-savvy people at the time. I tried to gauge their reactions and asked if anyone was messing with me. They all denied it, and I believed them. They're pretty bad liars. It was further confirmed that it was none of them when I got a phone call from the number. A voice on the other end said, "Is this my name?" I replied, "Yes, who is this?" hoping I could identify the voice. At that point, they hung up and resumed texting. Things started to get weird when the person began asking personal questions, including repeatedly asking, "Are you doing something tonight?" To which I replied, "Yes, I was working," but they kept insisting we should meet up. On top of all of this, I was getting various images sent to me from a separate email, username at textnow.me. This confirmed it wasn't a real number, and now I had a username to connect to the person. I don't know if it was their intention, but I actually enjoy trying to figure out shit like this, and I took it upon myself to expose this person without giving away anything about myself. So I kept it up. I texted them back for a while and dug more and more information about the person, compiling it into a profile and eliminating possibilities. Unfortunately, this just encouraged them, as they insisted I send pictures, take pics add to the convo, etc. Then they sent a weird one. A white lacy dress hanging in their closet with the accompanying text, "My wedding dress for when I marry you," various heart and love emojis. They continued to pry about where I was going to be that evening, and I still refused to give details. Then they dropped where they were going to be, a party on campus that night. I couldn't go regardless, I was working. Then I got another bombshell. They asked if I lived in apartment 68, which I did. I recognized the style of apartment they were in based on a picture from earlier, so I decided I would throw a curveball. "You live in this complex, right?" "What? How do you know?" "Me. I recognized the door." All the shitty apartments had the same color door frame, which was visible in the edge of a picture they sent. The conversation kind of fizzled out here. I didn't go to the party and didn't get any more texts. Fast forward to October, the following school year. I was a senior and busy as fuck. One evening, I got a text from an unknown number. "Is this my full name?" So I played dumb, pretended like I wasn't freaking out that after that many months this person was contacting me again and I still hadn't figured out who it was. These questions were instantly more personal and really weirded me out. Don't ruin the fun. Not knowing who I am is part of the mystery. I won't tell you who I am, not now, too much to lose. I don't want you to know. Not because I'm being cruel, it's just better if you don't know. I'm pretty tired of this shit and I'm trying to work, but I do want to see if I can pick out any more details, so I'm doing the bare minimum to keep this going. This is December, the end of the semester. They proceeded to call me multiple times. I denied every call, but they kept coming. I think there were 14 calls that night. I turned my phone off. The following week, I was in the class I TA'd. Students were presenting their final work on the projector, and I had queued multiple tabs on the projection computer. 2 different students had to work on Google Drive. When the second student logged into their account, they didn't open a private window, so it logged out the first student. I saw this happen, but the first student wasn't in the room, so when she came back, I asked her to re-log in. We were both in the projection booth. She was at one end on the computer and I was messing with the sound system on the other side, but happened to turn and look at the projector screen when she was logging into Google. This hit me like a ton of bricks. The username she logged in with was the same username as the TextNow account that had been sending me photos. I quickly turned away and pretended to be busy with something until she finished opening her work. I thanked her and she left the booth without realizing her mistake. I tried to play it cool, but inside I was going crazy for the rest of class. After almost a year, I knew who it was. She finally slipped up. And honestly, I was much more scared now than I had ever been. This person had a history of being pretty creepy around my friends, and although she had never personally interacted with me outside of class, all my friends had strange experiences. I made a meeting with a counselor who seemed to really care and offered to look into it. A couple weeks later, emailed me saying, "The student is going abroad next semester, so we're not going to do anything." I insisted that at least something temporary be put into place. They didn't do anything, but what did I expect? The school's pretty notorious for not giving a shit. I didn't run into her again. She hasn't texted me, so for the time being, this is where the story ends. Wait, literally, what the fuck? I'm like kind of confused because I just don't understand what her intentions were, because she wanted to meet up at some point. She like told you she was going to a party, but then didn't want you to know who she was. What was the point of texting you all this time if she like was never going to reveal herself? What was her end goal, I guess? It's creepy and I hate it. This next one says, internet pen pals. I've had a couple of stalkers. The one that freaked me out the most was in another country. We never met. We met on a website for pen pals. He lived in another country. Our conversations were great. He developed feelings really fast, like really fast. I liked him very much in the beginning. Our relationship became sexual in nature. We made plans to meet, etc. I was concerned with some things I considered red flags, confirmed by family and friends. I decided to back off a bit. He didn't like that at all. I was super beta, trying to keep the peace without hurting or losing my friend. I started lying to him out of fear. He would interrogate me for hours about where I was going, who I was with. If I went to a party, he'd both ask if I slept with anyone and then say he'd kind of hoped I had so I could tell him how the sex was. It was beginning to be too much. I was no longer interested in him romantically or sexually, but I would still engage with him sexually because I was afraid of him. In the meantime, I met and fell in love with my current significant other, who was absolutely wonderful. Stalker was obsessed with everything about our budding relationship and wouldn't leave me be. I realized finally that Stalker made me feel disgusting and that I should not be involved with someone who I was afraid of and disgusted by. I told him I didn't want to hear from him ever again. He ignored me. My SO contacted him and told him to leave me alone. He tried to interrogate my SO about the nature of our relationship, but SO shut him down. I blocked him on everything. I realized that he was reading my blog, so I deleted the whole thing. He made new email accounts and Facebook accounts constantly. He relentlessly Googled me and my SO to the point that our names were amongst the top searches on multiple search engines. That's insane. When he elicited no response, he started sending my SO screenshots of times we had been sexual. I was mortified, but since I had been 100% honest with my SO, it did not break us up. My SO was obviously disgusted and we never responded to anything he sent. To my knowledge, he still creeps on us, but after that, everything mostly stopped. I know he's thousands of miles away and I've had stalkers who are in my immediate area, but he still scares me the most. That would really freak me out too. Okay, the equestrian who wouldn't back off. I was only about 14 when this happened, and the dude who was stalking me was a few years older. Let's call him Tom. I used to compete in equestrian events, and Tom's mom was the president of one of the clubs I belonged to. His mom dragged him along to an event one day where he must have seen and taken a liking to me. I don't remember actually talking to or even meeting him that day, but he took it upon himself to look through the club's membership forms to find my phone number. Tom called me every single day, multiple times, for months on end. Twice on weekdays and 3 times on weekends. I politely told him I wasn't interested, but he was convinced that he would make me like him through sheer will alone. I stopped taking his calls after he started threatening to find and beat up any male I happened to mention, be it family, friend, or boyfriend, and would fly into a rage at the slightest thing. Sometimes he would call just to scream at me about something that happened at school that pissed him off. He started to find out which events I was going to attend by going through the entry forms his mom was sent, and he would show up and follow me around all day, demanding to know why I didn't want to date him. He went as far as grabbing me and shaking me when I would try to ignore him on the ground, or grabbing my horse's reins if I was mounted. My mom and I asked Tom's mom to stop bringing him to events as I was starting to get scared, and she accused me of leading him on and acting like I was too good for her boy, when I should be considering myself lucky that someone like him would even look twice at someone like me. He eventually stopped when one of my brothers came to an event and stood over him telling him to leave me alone. Literally what? Wait, that reminds me, oh my god. Him getting the phone number through forms reminds me, I went to an escape room one time and you have to sign a waiver. The man got my full name, the man who worked there got my full name from the waiver and found me on Instagram and then messaged me, and I felt weird, but I replied. I was young, whatever. I replied, and then he started making sexual advances towards me, you should come over tonight. It was right before I moved to Texas, and he was like, well, you can just come over and we can fuck and then you can leave. And I was like, no! I was literally, what the fuck? What is wrong with people? Okay, this next one says, the inappropriate math tutor. When I was in my final 2 years of high school, I would get tutored for math by a guy we will call Brian. Brian was at least 65 years old and worked for a tutoring center. I would see him 2 afternoons a week for 45 minutes each. Seemed like a very lonely guy, never married, no kids, and from what I could tell, very little friends, and I felt a bit sorry for him. I was always really nice to Brian, and to avoid having to do any math work, I would just ask him questions and try and start a conversation. All was well when I finished high school, and that was that. About 1 year later, and my best friend's younger brother got tutored by Brian as well. One day when dropping my friend's brother off, I say hi to Brian from me, as he got out of the car. About a week later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Brian. He was saying how he had really liked me and was now tutoring Ben, friend's brother, and was excited when he mentioned to say hi. He took this the wrong way and in the letter basically confessed the feelings he had for me and was so glad I felt the same way. He said some very creepy things in the letter about how good I looked in my uniform and always wanted to tell me but didn't want to get in trouble. I told my parents about the letter and they approached the tutoring center and told the owners. He ended up getting fired for the letter and also for accessing personal information for clients for him to send the letter. About a week later, I started receiving flowers at my doorstep, and they would be followed up with text messages to my mobile number saying, "Hope you like the flowers, and give me a call if you want to get coffee." My parents took all of this to the police, who then got in contact with Brian, and he was cautioned, and I've never heard from him since. You literally can't be nice to someone. You just can't even be nice. You can't even say hi without people thinking you have other intentions. It's just scary. This one's super short. It says, she stabbed someone with a fork. I dated a guy for about 2 months, and he had an insane ex-girlfriend. She showed up at his house no less than a dozen times over the short period that we dated. They had been going out for a year, and she got crazier and crazier. Even after we broke up, she continued to stalk me, sending me Facebook messages and texting my phone. I ended up switching numbers and getting rid of my real name online. 5 years later, she gives up stalking me when he gets engaged to a girl and moves out to Texas. She moves out to Texas. She then lured the fiancé into a parking lot of a Denny's, I think, and stabbed her in the face with a fork. Bye. I think there's 2 more stories, so this one says the older guy. I used to work with an older guy, old enough to be my father. I tried to be friendly with him because we worked in nearby apartments and I didn't want trouble to be had from anyone I worked with. I guess no one was really very nice to him there, so he took to me like butter on bread. He'd quickly leave his department if he saw me and just chill in mine and do all my work for me. I never asked him to, and I preferred doing my own work because it gave me something to do. One day my car wouldn't start, so he offered me a ride home. I agreed because fuck walking 10 miles. From that point on, he would show up randomly at my house waiting to hang out or go out to eat or whatever. At first, I would let him stay for a few hours because I thought he was harmless, but after putting up with him every day for a week at work and outside of work, I got annoyed. I started avoiding my house or pretending like I wasn't home. He didn't like that too much. He started showing up at places I was at. Movie theater, mall, fast food places, even my mom's house one time. I couldn't figure out how he knew where the fuck I was each time until a friend inspected my car and found a fucking tracker on it. Once he realized he couldn't find me anymore, he took to cornering me at work. One time he had me cornered and shoved his tongue into my mouth. Naturally, I freaked out and bit him, and once I was able to get away, I ran to the manager's office. Weems is attacking me, and I don't know what to do. I just want to film my video. Get me to like sit over here. It was caught on tape, thank fucking heavens, and he was promptly fired. I ended up moving shortly afterwards and didn't tell anyone my forwarding address beyond family. I have been blocked on social media. I did see him once in a store, but he was with his wife. He has a wife? And I was with a friend who was built like a tank. I don't go to that store anymore. He has a wife? You literally can't be nice to people. It's just insane. Like the last story, you just can't be nice to people. And finally, the last story says, footprints in the snow. I broke up with my abusive ex. I moved into my parents' home with my daughter. We had a lot of snow one night, and when we woke up in the morning, I noticed footprints leading up to my window. Then we noticed that there were footprints leading up to all of the windows. We found I can't say this, it's a cigarette brand, Marlboro, I don't know, menthol cigarette butts in the snow, and traced the footprints to the township hall that we live across from. My ex stood outside and looked in through all the windows, and we didn't know until the next day. My bed was right next to the window. We invested in new locks and curtains for all of the windows. We called the police since I had an order of protection, but since we didn't see him, they couldn't do anything. I worked in an ER as a nurse, and twice he came in as a patient. There was never anything actually wrong with him, so we all suspected he did it as a way to scare me. I never had to be his nurse. Once again, there was no way to prove it was intentional. Somebody wrote bitch and slut in the dirt on my car multiple times. One time I noticed in the parking lot of the local grocery store, so I'm unsure of when it was written, but it creeps me out to know he might have been in the store watching me. He just stopped, as far as I know, eventually. He got a girl pregnant, and from what I heard, he left the state to avoid being a father. Our daughter and I are safe now. We have a security system, a dog that barks like a madman anytime someone strange is in the yard, and my SO has assured me he will do anything to protect us. I still recently received some messages from his mom and sister. They told me I'm a terrible mom and it's all my fault they can't see my daughter, when in reality, they have never tried. They also told me I'm a liar and that my ex never abused or stalked me. I know the truth though. I'm like scared to scoot over because Weems just has his paws off the edge of the counter ready to attack my sweater. Because it's like, you know, Weems, please let me move over. I'm gonna scoot him, and if he attacks me, we're just gonna deal with the consequences. Oh, he didn't. Okay, cool. That is all I have for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any stalker stories you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit link down below. I am hoping and praying that you don't have any stories similar to these. Weems is reaching for the sweater. I'm hoping you don't have any stories as insane as these, but if you do and you want to share them, you are more than welcome to. Like I said, I got a lot of rambling to do, so I'm gonna go. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye! So as you know, or maybe you don't, I don't know, I talked about it in my last video, I think. I went to Portland over last weekend. And it was a very interesting trip. Very interesting. So I didn't know much about Portland before I went, honestly. I knew it was like a city. We were staying in the city and we were driving out to a couple places. Like we drove out to Multnomah Falls and Cannon Beach. We were doing that Friday, so we did that, whatever. But I didn't know that it's like not the safest city. And so I was like oblivious to everything around me. And I like to think I'm the most cautious person on the planet, and I was proved very wrong this weekend. But I'll talk about my trip, and then I'll go into detail about what happened with that, because that happened Saturday, but I want to talk about Friday too. So Friday, we rented a car, and we drove to Multnomah Falls, which was beautiful, like insane. I posted a picture on my Instagram, and it's like, it doesn't even do it justice. Like the picture is amazing, but it still doesn't do it any justice. And it's like, I hate that you can't capture some things on camera. It just sucks because you like want to show people so bad. And then we drove the 2 hours from Multnomah Falls to Cannon Beach, which was very cool. I'm not a Twilight fan. I guess it's like the beach from Twilight. I think I've seen, sorry, I got a text. I think I've seen the first one, but I'm not sure. And then, I haven't seen any of the other, I didn't read the books, like I'm just not a Twilight fan. But my friend who I went with was, and so she was so excited. The beach was beautiful, so you don't really have to be like a Twilight fan to enjoy the scenery, but it was so cool. And then we ended up coming back around 5, dropped the car off, and then I think we just got dinner and like drinks, and then we went to bed. I fell asleep by like 8 p.m. I was exhausted. The next day we had like a bunch of stuff planned because Brittany loves like finding stuff through TikTok and Instagram, and just going to these like cute little places. So in the morning we like ordered food to the hotel room, and then we went to get coffee, and we didn't know we were walking in a not so good part of town to get the coffee, and it was like I don't know, maybe like a 10-minute walk. So there were like 3 people on the opposite side of the road as us. We were over here, they were over here, and the 2 people were like kind of far away. There was one person who was kind of like shouting stuff at us, but I just don't pay any mind to them. I just feel like if I ignore them, they're gonna shut the fuck up eventually. And so saying stuff like, hey gorgeous, or like come over here, like whatever. And then there were 2 other people who I didn't really notice. I knew they were there, but I guess I wasn't paying close enough attention, and we had to cross the street. And Brittany was like, I'm not crossing the street. And I was like, well, we kind of have to. I was like, it's fine, they're not gonna do anything. I was so dumb. And she was like, I'm not crossing the street here. So she kept walking straight, so I obviously followed her. And then when we got to the coffee shop, she was like, they had like crowbars. She's like, and they were yelling at us. They literally had like metal rods. And I was like, I didn't even notice. So we got to the coffee shop, and then we were going to the Saturday market, and Brittany was like, I don't want to walk to the Saturday market. It was like 0.3 miles away, but we Ubered anyways. Our Lyft driver obviously didn't care that they were driving such a short distance, but it wasn't the safest part of the city. So we decided to Uber, whatever, and then we Ubered back to the hotel after the Saturday market, just hung out there for a little bit, and then we went and got drinks at this really cute place called the Pink Rabbit, and then we went to Toy Shop Ramen, which was a little bit out of the city. It was kind of like in like this suburb area, but it was so good. And then we went back to the hotel for more drinks, and then we went to bed. I again fell asleep by like 8:30. And then Sunday, we just woke up, got food, and then our flight was at like 2, so we went to the airport. And then the thing is, I was so tired from this trip. I don't know why, because I got like a lot of sleep, kind of. My bed was kind of uncomfortable, to be honest. So I didn't sleep like throughout the night very well, but I like was going to bed at 8 and waking up at like 6. But I was really tired. I feel like it's just like a vacation thing. You're just tired, and traveling makes you tired, whatever. But I had my friend's baby's first birthday on Sunday. It was like a birthday party, and so I was already late because my flight landed when the party started. So I like got my luggage, dropped Brittany off, and then went straight to the party. I was there till 10. Oh my god, I was exhausted, but it was so much fun. I always have so much fun with those friends, and I love her baby. She's my niece. I'm in love with her. But yeah, so I had a long weekend, a very long weekend, and now it's Tuesday and we're here. I took yesterday to kind of chill and relax because Sunday I didn't really have the time to do that. So I took yesterday as like my one day to like calm down, clean my apartment, like do whatever I needed to do, get my life in check, and then now I'm back to filming. It was a super fun weekend. I really enjoyed Portland. It's funny because we were Ubering to the airport and we were asking the Uber driver, like, is this specific area, because we were driving through the area where that incident happened, we're like, is this area very safe? And he was like laughing at us. And he said like, it's gotten better. And he was like, I'll just say that. So yeah, clearly we were just being really dumb. Like we should have looked more into that, but you know, because like in Phoenix, obviously there's bad parts, and in like Dallas, there's bad parts, in LA, there's bad parts. Like there's just bad parts to every city that it's just not safe. And nothing happened to us, and you know, there were cops around. Like when we were walking near those people, there were 3 cops like crossing the street like over from us, so if like something were to have happened, we just kind of scream and hopefully they help us. But nothing happened, we were fine. Just a little bit of a scare. And I wasn't even scared at the moment because I didn't even notice anything. But Brittany told me later and I was like, oh. We walked around our hotel, like in the areas around our hotel, because it was like, there were so many people out like at all times. But we were like alone walking in that area. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna go because I feel like I have nothing else to say. I've talked about my whole trip. I've been rambling for a while, but I love you guys. There's a giant semi or truck or whatever going by right now. I love you guys so much. See ya.